My 21 roommate, 20, wants to have her BF, 36, stay over for a week. I don't really know what to do. For context, we're both in college. Juniors, to be exact, but she started school early so she's a bit younger. We live in a 2-bedroom apartment, just the two of us. We met at orientation as freshmen and have been pretty close since, so we decided to move into the off-campus apartments together. She's a good friend, an okay roommate, but I try to talk to her about whatever issues we have and be upfront about it. Also, we live in St. Louis, Missouri. Okay. So about 2 to 3 months ago, my roommate/friend joined a Discord. A BDSM Discord. She'd just gotten out of a 4 to 5 month relationship, following what was a long-term relationship with this guy who was an ass. I think after those two, she wanted to try something different, explore her sexuality some more, etc. Ending up talking to this 36-year-old guy from California, they established an open relationship, and they talk a lot on Discord. Open relationship as in they can screw whoever they want on the side and the other party doesn't have an issue with it. Apparently while I was away for the holidays, he had flown over from California and they spent a couple days together. I had no knowledge of this, and was a bit freaked out. A guy nearly twice our age really into BDSM knew where we lived, but whatever, I just started locking my bedroom door more. Anyways, I finally had the chance to talk to him over Discord one night when my roommate and I were drinking some wine. He'd been smoking, but was not drinking. We ended up getting pretty wasted. He said some things I thought weren't entirely appropriate, and even took advantage of our drunken states to ask us to do some things sober me would never do. Nothing heinous or especially awful, but definitely something that looking back makes me super uncomfortable. That was a week or so ago. Last night, again while we were drinking with some friends, my roommate asked if he could stay over for a week. I at least had the foresight to tell her to ask me when I'm sober, and I'm so glad I did. So here I am, trying to decide if this man twice our age that I've never met can fly over from California and stay in our tiny 2-bedroom apartment for a week. She's had boyfriends over before, and I'd been okay with it because they were pretty respectful guys who kept to themselves and didn't put me in any uncomfortable situations. But I've already been in a few with this guy over a Discord call. I don't want to be a downer and say no, because flying here and then getting a place to stay can be pretty expensive, but at the same time, I don't really want this guy here for a full week. He also pretty regularly lets me have people over too. Friends, mostly girls who don't stay the night, but still. Maybe I'm being a prude and overreacting. What should I do? Edit, clarification. Edit 2, thank you all for confirming I'm not currently living in an alternate reality where that would be okay. Definitely will be telling her no, and probably keep distance from him when they're on a call together. Too long didn't read. Roommate wants her BF from California nearly twice our age, who I've never met, come spend a week in our tiny 2-bedroom apartment. Am I crazy for feeling uncomfortable? This guy is bad news, and your instincts are telling you that it would be dangerous to let him stay with you. Trust your instincts. This is a man preying on a girl twice his age and taking advantage of you when you're under the influence. And that's when he's across the country. You absolutely need to put your foot down. A roommate might be upset, but it's much more important to protect yourself. You can use the pandemic as an excuse. It's a valid reason in itself, but this would be a bad idea even if there weren't a pandemic. Also, it's time to stop hanging out with them on Discord. You can tell her that he's made you uncomfortable there and so you are going to take a little more distance. Dude who's already pushing boundaries wants to fly in a pandemic? No thank you. Or completely justified to put your foot down about him visiting. If he's serious about seeing her, he can get a hotel. I'm sure the prices are rock bottom and just like airfare. Although he honestly sounds like a creep and I'm always skeptical of people who are into BDSM and pushing boundaries, that's a pretty threatening mix. A BDSM player who wheedles drunk people into doing things they wouldn't do sober is what they call a desperately unsafe human disaster zone. Never play with this person in kink community jargon. 1. Pandemic 2. Feel like he's following up on the grooming he did when you were on Discord together. 3. Generally, in the absence of 1 and 2, a week-long visit from a LDR partner would be fine as long as boundaries were very clear. 4. Pandemic. 5. She/they can rent an Airbnb and get their freak on. We are in a pandemic. Some dude flying from California and staying in your place for a week. Hard no. Also, aside from that, he's 36 years old. He can't afford an Airbnb for a week. My long-term boyfriend, 26, changed his mind about marriage. I'm 24. I'm looking for advice here since I don't want to ask family and risk it potentially causing a fight with my boyfriend and I met in university and were good friends for 2 years. We spent a lot of time together and had a very close friendship, and still do. Soon after we started dating we both started having landlord issues with our respective apartments, so we just thought, hey, why not put our rent money together, get a really nice place and move in together. I was 20, he was 22. In hindsight I would never recommend that anyone do that after just a few months of dating, but it worked out perfectly. We get along so well and I couldn't believe how easy it was to live together. Since we were each other's first serious relationship, a lot of firsts. I know it was probably very naive of me to take him seriously, but he would constantly ask me when he could propose. We were both drunk on love and head over heels in love with each other. I told him that 21 was a special year, and he should ask me at 22. However, 2 years later, he still hadn't asked me. So I casually brought it up, and asked him if he still wanted to marry me. He said that he couldn't think straight when we first started dating, that he was just so in love and so overwhelmed, and that it was the first time he has ever had a serious relationship. He said that he doesn't blame himself for feeling differently now since he had never been in a position like that before. He also said that I couldn't hold him to what he said before since he was so young and inexperienced. I expressed that I would like to get married someday, and then I let it go and didn't bring it up again. I've just turned 24, and it's been on my mind lately. I didn't want to pester him, but on the other hand, I need to know if he is ever planning on proposing at all. At this point we've been living together happily and have supported each other through so much. He constantly tells me how much he appreciates everything I do for him, and that I make his life so much better, and that he's going to stay with me forever. I feel like we both do an equal amount around the house. We respect and care for each other, share our finances, and do everything else that a married couple does. But, when I asked him what he thought about getting married yesterday, he said I'm not there right now, I'm just not thinking about it. Also, what's the point of getting married? I know I'm going to be with you forever. We're not religious, so why get married? I explained that it was important to me, and I think it's romantic. When I said that we had this conversation 2 years ago, and nothing has really changed, he said that he doesn't have his dream job yet, so he isn't even considering marriage right now. We have been living and working abroad for 2.5 years, and are saving up so that he can pursue his career. I'm not sure what I want to do as a career yet, but I'm figuring it out. I'm also terrified to bring up children with him, as it's a similar situation. In the beginning he said that he wanted them, but he wanted to be financially stable first since he'd had a hard childhood. I totally agree. Nowadays, he says he hates kids and he never wants to have them, and he always talks about how dumb his brother was to have a kid. I figure that he's just scared, and we're both relatively young still, so there's no reason to badger him about children now. The thing is, I love him dearly. I love living with him and I love his family. He was my first everything and I want to be with him forever. I want to get married and have children one day, but I want it with him. I don't know if I'll be able to accept not having those things in our relationship at all. On the other hand, I feel dumb for moving in with him and giving him all the perks of having a wife so soon without at least being engaged first. Why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free, eh? Too long didn't read. My boyfriend of 4 years isn't sure he wants to get married anymore because he doesn't have his dream job and we basically have a common law marriage anyway. If you know that your long-term goals include marriage and children, and his don't, then I'm afraid that's your answer. Somebody doesn't need to be a bad person to be the wrong partner for you. Okay, so if you accidentally got pregnant, what do you think he would do? Marry you? Ask you to abort? Can you live with the answers? I've actually thought about this before, and honestly, if that were to happen I would probably not even tell him. I would break it off for a different reason and leave and raise the baby on my own. I don't think I could have an abortion, even though it's a valid choice. And I don't think I could handle the disappointment and anguish he would endure. So, I would just go. Keep your funds separate while you are not married. This will keep things neatly organized for you. Save your funds as you see fit. Don't sacrifice your career for his. Greed. Don't spend your hard-earned money on his career. If he leaves you, then you're without any funds. I'm going to be frank. You need to sit down and have an actual conversation with him. A hard conversation. What do you want out of life conversation. You need to know what you want and don't want. And if his goal is child-free and no marriage, you need to evaluate if you are willing to live like that. Because if not, it doesn't matter how much you love him, but you will grow to resent him. And you can break up and stay friends. But from your small description of what he wants, it seems like your relationship may have run its course. Everyone is in your life for a reason, even if it's not permanent. And that's okay. The hardest part of life is letting people you love go. Just remember that if you do all the giving up of your dreams, it's not actually a fair relationship. I appreciate your answer. Sometimes it feels like I'm pushing him too hard, because when we usually talk about stuff like this he'll say we're so damn young, we're still kids, and though it's valid for him to feel that way, I don't. We have degrees, we earn salaries, we live in a foreign country and we pay bills. We aren't kids and I don't feel like I have infinite time. It's hard thinking that he may not be the person I marry or have a family with, but I need to put myself first. Clearly, his dream job is a higher priority for him either way. I'm concerned about the fact that you've been together 4 years and you feel scared to bring up the question of kids with him. You should feel safe talking about what you want for your future. The fact that even talking about plans has conditioned you to avoid the subject and shut down, makes me think he doesn't hear or respect your needs. My husband, 34 meters, is lashing out at me, 32D, after we euthanized our cat. My husband and I have been married 6 years and have 2 young kids. We also have a dog and we had a cat. The cat predated our house, marriage and kids. He was 10 and he had literally been through it all with us. For the past few weeks I thought the cat was acting a bit odd but nothing crazy, so I made him a vet appointment which was scheduled for today. But he decompensated over the past 3 days, became lethargic, was refusing to eat and drink, laying on the floor meowing and wouldn't walk. So my husband and I made the collaborative decision to take him to the emergency vet last night instead of waiting for our scheduled appointment. I took the cat and my husband stayed home with the kids. I am not a vet but I am a nurse, so I have an idea of what a dying creature looks like, and I could tell the cat was dying. When the vet saw him she agreed that he was very sick. She obtained an x-ray that showed his abdomen was full of cancer. I considered taking him home so that our family could have a final goodbye, but the vet said she didn't think he would make it through the night. My oldest is only 3 also. I called my husband and asked if he wanted me to take the cat home, or if he wanted to drive up to say goodbye, but my husband said he felt okay with it, that he had said goodbye before I took him and I could just do it. When I went into the room, they brought the cat to me and he was barely moving. I could just tell he was so sick. I knew euthanizing him was the right choice immediately because he was so very ill. I cried my eyes out and cuddled him of course and cried all the way home. The actual euthanasia was very peaceful. When I got home my husband was full on sobbing. I just let him have his space. But then he started firing questions at me. There was nothing else they could have done. Surgery wouldn't have worked. I explained that the cat was very sick to him, but it did annoy me that he wanted to ask those questions almost blamingly after the cat was already gone. Anyway, since then he has been crying loudly intermittently and asking me to say something to him. I've tried to comfort him but it doesn't seem like anything I say is helping. He has now also started making accusatory remarks like, well, it doesn't seem like you're very sad, or I haven't seen you shed a tear, and why do you have to act so tough? I personally prefer to grieve alone. My dad died this past year and I still save my crying episodes for when I'm in the shower. That's just how I am. In addition, like I said before, I felt very confident at the decision. Being in a profession that I'm faced with illness and death often, I have adapted a different perspective. I think I have seen family members keep their family alive who are clearly suffering, and that's not what I would want for any family, including fur family. Kitty was very sick, and it was the right time. Yes, I am very sad, but I don't think I have to prove that by crying loudly. I'm just frustrated because it seems like he's looking for me to cure his grief. I can't, and he's judging my perspective and the way I grieve. TLDR, husband and I are not grieving the loss of our cat the same way, and he's started lashing out at me. Edit should say 32F.